Thank you.
We had a little technical difficulties yesterday. Who would have thought the Four Seasons in Napa would have poor Wi-Fi? So fortunately enough, it made it even better because I was able to be joined here today, belly to belly and face to face with Jon. So everybody watching along, sorry for those that missed yesterday, but really excited for episode number 95 of Tech Sales Insights. Really psyched to have Jon Festejo, who's the co-founder and CEO of a really cool company called salesbricks. And his title topic today is top 3 ways to not lose enterprise deals and also Cpq Insights. For those that are watching that are members of Sales Community, thanks so much. For those that are not, feel free to go check out salescommunity.com. And at the top left corner, you'll see something that says Summer Free. So if you click on that, you can get a free membership. If you click on the other one, you have to pay. So I recommend doing the doing the free one. So I recently met Jon through an introduction from Nick Candido, I think is what it was, right?
That's right.
And I like the company so much, I actually personally invested, and they became a sponsor of Sales Community. For interest, Jon is into golf and traveling, lives in Palo Alto right here where we're in his cool WeWork digs. Did you ever see the show We Crashed?
I did. I finished it. It's very
cool,
entertaining.
Yeah, really cool. And most importantly, he's a great husband and father, has 2 young boys, age 1 and 4. So kind of opposite spectrum from where I am. And Brian, who's one of your partners on the salesbricks team, gave me some good meat on you. He said, Jon spent 10 years running deal desk operations, so he knows how painful it can be to work with legacy CPQ. It's why he started salesbricks, and salesbricks helps CROs shorten deal cycles with quote to cash platform that is enterprise capable right out of box. So I know we'll be talking more about that. And we should give a shout out here to SaaStr, right? SaaStr. Jason Lemkin put on a awesome event, just started today. I was over there this morning, and I can't say there really was ever any event where I actually spent so much time trying to pick what I wanted to go to, and the exhibits are great. For those that are there tomorrow, I'm doing a sales community meetup, kind of 11:30 to 1 in the co-working space. So anybody's around and wants to come check that out, certainly feel free. We've got a bunch of advisory board members that are going to be there. Jon's going to be there. So any others would be great to join. So maybe as we dive right in here, give us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. Have about over 10 years in sales ops and revenue ops experience. My first job out of college was straight into a SaaS company. I was somebody who didn't know anything about working in a professional environment. And so fast forward 10 plus years, I've experienced a lot. And, I've touched over $2 billion worth of SaaS agreements, touching contracts for new logo transactions, upsells, renewals. And I've probably dealt with over 1,000 procurement teams in my experience. And so I've earned a little bit of a secret around how hard it is. And I really appreciate the professionalism and the amount of work that salespeople have to go do in order to get a logo. It's painful, but it's also very addicting when you go win. So
it's
appreciate
amazing.
A lot of the work that you guys.
Yeah. So the age-old problem, right? It's like, it's amazing. You think that, freeing up time for salespeople would be huge, with all the BS that you got to spend.
That's right.
Getting the proposals done, figure out the pricing, getting it out there, and the collection piece and all, which I know we're going to be getting into some of that. So maybe talking about salesbricks, I would imagine that, and we're trying to figure, this is our first that we've actually done side by side with somebody. So I know we're trying to figure out whether it's whether we look, when we talk, when we look, or whatever we do. So I guess we'll figure it out. So presumably the reasons that you just mentioned is why you started salesbricks, I assume, right?
Yeah, I mean, what really hit the nail for me was implementing CPQ for the 4th time in my career while I was expecting a son. And so, I was no longer able to go do these 16-hour days. And what that means for the business is CPQ implementation will just take 10 times longer. And so I think it was the last straw that broke the camel's back around, I think we need to go invent something from scratch, because the way that CPQs are architected, it's just painful to go implement. In fact, the CPQ market basically invites a billion-dollar business in consulting. You go hire somebody offshore and spend 6 figures, sometimes even 3x what you spend on the actual software to have somebody go implement and maintain it. And that just really shows how painful that is, and it's something needed to change. So we started salesbricks about a year ago. One of my co-founders is a husband of a lady that I worked with twice. She ran deal desk and sales ops at 2 companies that I worked at. I was her colleague. I brought her in at Signal Effects prior to selling the company for $1 billion to Splunk. But we all knew the problems that we were trying to go solve, and so we had to go build something from scratch. And partnering with John Louis has been tremendous for me. He understands the problem immediately, and so we're taking it day by day to try to work with customers and prospects to unscrew up their CPQ implementation.
Oh yeah, and just trying to think back. Any of my big company or small company jobs, remember this is a problem, but shout outs Gary Richards and Dave Ornelas, who I would go kind of butt heads with more than once, saying, hey, we got to freaking fix this. And you talk about the big consulting firms, but then spreadsheets and everything else. But maybe a good way to represent, I don't know if there's any customer examples that you can talk about that you're helping.
Yeah, there's a security company that is about a year old, invested by Andreessen Horowitz. It's called Andreessen Securities, one of our iconic or bigger customers. They had over 180 line items of pricing rules and SKUs. And imagine bringing that to your new sales organization and say, hey, you have a week to go memorize this. It's going to be painful for ramping. And so what salesbricks does is it basically digests a lot of these complex pricing structures and rules and creates this user experience that even a 21-year-old fresh out of college sales rep could go use, and within a few minutes build out a very strategic order form. And so that's one of an example. We do a lot of automation for some of our smaller companies, smaller customers that are less than $1 million in ARR. FreeFlow is one of them. It's a communication software company. And we're trying to start to sell into these publicly traded companies that have 7-figure investments in CPQ. And
it's crazy. And what about from a competitor perspective? You mentioned, I'm sure there's the huge consulting groups that want to get paid to do their own coding for the companies, and it fails miserably, and companies spend a lot. But are there other companies that are in the space?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the well-known ones that I don't know if I need to mention their name, but it has a blue cloud as their logo. Those organizations built and invented CPQ about 30 years ago, 20 years ago.
Created the problem as well.
And it's really hard for them to undo that and re-architect that while the train's moving.
Yeah.
And so it's really, if you look at their innovation, it's been very, very, very incremental over time.
Yeah.
You really have to go build something from the ground up. And one of the things that salesbricks really focuses on is user experience, not only for the sales organization, but for the buyer. The modern day buyer is not buying the way that when you were going to sell software, whether it be on-prem or back in the 90s or 80s, that technology had long sales cycles, right? Nowadays, if you don't get the attention of a millennial buyer in their 30s or 20s, they're going to move on to go research some other solution that maybe they could go swipe a card online.
Right.
And so we have to go focus on that in order to go win the space.
Yeah. So it's kind of part of your offering, that B2B checkout process, right?
Yeah, we don't think of custom quotes and self-service checkout as two different architectures or infrastructures. Like we unify that within salesbricks, but we provide solutions on top of each of those kind of go-to-market motions, so that, for example, you could create a very unique custom order for these like sales-led type of transactions. And for customers who maybe want 1 or 2 conversations with sales, they're going to check out using a URL link that's powered by salesbricks. So at the end of the day, all that customer metadata around their subscriptions and entitlements land in the same bucket so that sales could go manage that with a few clicks of a button. And so we pride ourselves in kind of taking a step back and re-architecting the whole solution from scratch. And it's taking time, but we've been getting a lot of positive feedback from our customers and even prospects that are in a sales cycle with us.
That's great. So where you're at now, how do you look at your ICP, your ideal customer profile?
Yeah, I think that's something that we're figuring out at the moment. We rolled out our CRM integrations just recently, yeah. And we could play really nicely side by side with these antiquated solutions, and then we could go even rip them out too. So I think right now I'm going to start focusing on the larger transactions, the larger enterprises that have a lot of complex pricing and packaging, and they need to kind of unbundle a lot of the friction within their sales process. And they're looking to something like a salesbricks to go help automate a lot of the quote to cash. Yeah,
common complaint for sure. And probably lots of our sales community advisory board members, and some that'll be there tomorrow, hopefully. And then from a decision maker perspective, if we talk about kind of going high, starting high, then kind of going down before we talk about going low and going up. So from a C-suite perspective, is it kind of more the CRO, CFO, or kind of what level?
Yeah, I think the CRO is, if you think about the pyramid of, who's your persona.
Yeah.
From a CXO perspective, it's the CRO. They're compensated based on logos and ARR, and if any solution out there or their tech stack that they kind of own is slowing down the sales process or helping or making it very challenging for them to achieve those goals, it's a CRO. They are compensated. Their targets are tied to revenue, and we help them kind of accelerate that process.
Wow. And then do you have the session I was listening to over at SaaStr today was by Mark Roberge at Stage 2 Capital, who's the master and probably the father and grandfather of PLG, product-led growth. Do you have a PLG model also with what you're doing?
Yeah, we similar to something like Lever, where off the bat, like if you don't have a careers page, like Lever will automatically allow you to go embed like a page powered by Lever to go manage your listings, what your openings are for your organization. We do the very same thing for the pricing page. And so you could go embed a powered by salesbricks pricing page onto your website, and it takes about 30 seconds. You just have a developer go in and kind of embed that link into the pricing page, pricing tab. If you have a pricing page already, you can actually embed the order builder URL into the actual call to action button for those respective plans. And so as you are designing pricing and packaging, you're actually creating specific price books that are for the more low touch, no touch customers that just want to get access to your product. And so we power that for a lot of organizations. And at the end of the day, all those transactions are flowing through salesbricks, flowing through the CRM, very streamlined. We can power that for any company that wants to experiment with PLG, even if they have been living a sales-led go-to-market org for a very long time.
Wow, that's awesome. And if I allow you to give a commercial, what roles are you hiring for now?
Yeah, we're hiring for sales. We're looking to expand our sales organization, and we're looking for kick-ass, great sales engineers that go help us and build a product.
Awesome. All right. So sales and sales engineers, and I assume geography, you're flexible because your customers are everywhere.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great. So we also, Tucker is behind the scenes as always. Thank you so much for your help and your patience here. So Tucker, if we have any questions, make sure you pull those up because I've got a different screen view from what we've had before. So if anybody's watching, feel free to comment or ask any questions as well. And Tucker will make sure we get to those. So let's start off with one of our title topics, top 3 ways to not lose enterprise deals.
Yeah, this is changing for me because this is the very first time I carry a bag in my entire career.
Really?
Right. I'm the CEO, but also the head of sales.
Yeah.
And it's changing for me. But as of today, the 3 things I think we need to consider when winning the enterprise sales transaction is is being very transparent in what the sales process looks like.
So maybe go through, mention each three,
it's
each
transparency.
one, and then we'll go back through.
Yeah, it's transparency, it's flexibility, and it's building that trust and partnership with your buyers, with your champions, and also even like converting the tractor to a convert into a champion as well.
Yeah, totally. So maybe we start on the first one talking about transparency.
Yeah, I think a lot of these buyers in these enterprise transactions, it might be their second transaction for buying solution. So they don't know how to go buy software. And so being transparent around, okay, this is what we're going to be doing in the next 30, 60 days. We're going to learn about your as is and to be state, like what is your pain?
Yep.
What is your current process that's causing that pain? And where ideally do you want to see yourself after making an investment in a solution that will help you, right? So learning, having your customers learn what the process of buying and being very transparent about that, who they need to bring into the organization at the right time, when and where, that's super helpful because you kind of help them understand where you need to be in order for you to be successful and so that the deal can happen, right? Because it's a partnership.
Yeah, I mean, transparency, I also think of just being authentic, right? Transparent, authentic, saying, hey, we're going to tell you everything. We're not going to, we don't do everything. Here's what we do, here's what we don't do. I'm going to be open to you about kind of whatever it is. To
exactly.
me, that's a point of transparency as well. And then what about flexibility?
I think flexibility is really important. What a lot of people don't really understand is not every deal is going to look exactly the same, right?
Totally.
Your $1 million deal, your $9 million deal, your $50,000 deal, your $10,000 deal. There's a lot of permutations and a lot of things that are very different across each of those. So understanding what their budget is, understanding when they can go buy your software because they're currently on their existing solution that they might want to turn off later on. So understanding where the renewal is, and maybe the renewal is 3 to 6 months out, how can you maybe customize the deal so that the start date is out? And then maybe the payment terms are a little bit out too. And maybe you go discount it such that they're not buying two solutions and paying for it at the same time. So being very flexible and understanding what their criteria is for buying, that's super helpful. So I've seen a lot of deals happen in my time. I touched over 2 billion, like I mentioned, and some of the best sales reps out there understand where they need to be and what the deal needs to look like in order for it to have a higher probability of success. And so that's one of my biggest advice for founders who are running their own sales process, and for even seasoned sales leaders.
Absolutely. And then on the trust side, there's rest in peace, Walter Brown, who has contributed a lot in my book, Your Go-To Sales Advisor. But Ken Doherty and others will quote him all the time. And Brian Bell, he has one thing, which is know me, like me, trust me, right? Mm-hmm. So it's that trust. It takes a while to get there. What do you think of in terms of trust?
I think trust is listening. To build a trustful, like a relationship where both parties is trusting each other, you have to get to know them, right? What keeps you up at night? What are some of the challenges that you face at work? What are things that you're trying to go achieve in your careers? And if you go spend the time to listen, one of my biggest mentors out there is Mark Randy. And one of the first things he says in these quarterly sales QBRs is, you have 2 of these and you have 1 of this. Right? So go listen to your customers and understand what makes them tick, what their concerns are, what the pain is. So listening and just building that relationship where, okay, I'm just going to listen to you for a little bit and let me know what's going on. That's part of that trust in that relationship, right? The second thing is, if you need to push your customer or your prospect off the plane to go bungee jump because it's a really big move, there's going to be times in your career, in your sales cycle, where you just got to push the customer and say, hey, you got to trust me, right? This solution is going to solve a lot of these things. So that's important, right? To have that oomph to be able to go have that painful conversation. But ultimately, building trust is also like telling the truth sometimes, right? Hey, our solution, like you mentioned, our solution does not achieve that yet, but I'd love to learn more about why you might need that feature. And so I could go and build that, go back to my team and my engineering team and say, hey, they need this feature. It's going to unlock $2 million of cost savings, or it's going to unlock more revenue for the business. Can we think about building that? And can we build that feature in so that, maybe once we roll it out, like we could go sell them it, but we'll sell them at a lower price because they're going to be the first customer for it. But ultimately, just telling the truth when it matters is super important to build that relationship. So those are the things that I've learned from really well seasoned sales reps when I supported them in their sales cycles.
Absolutely.
I do
So
a good job of that.
transparency, flexibility, and building trust. So all great points. So the kind of second title topic we have is around kind of CPQ Insights. So I know you've already touched on a lot, and I don't know if there's any other kind of insights that you would have to share about people. Obviously, they can improve salesbricks, but kind of any other more generic insights.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go step a little bit out of the wheel here and say, what does selling software look like in 5 to 10 years? It's not going to be a CPQ, right? It's going to be revenue infrastructure. It's going to be something like a Shopify.
Or you're doing the example of, who would have thought 5 years ago that we'd be on doing apps for the airline reservations and everything else, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at a lot of these industries in the B2C world, right? Travel agencies, streaming media or media like Blockbuster. Where's Blockbuster now, right? A lot of these industries that invest in technology that focuses on the customer experience and the customer accessibility, democratizing the product, making it easy to get access to, those industries and those companies in particular are going to win the race, right? If you see what Netflix did to streaming media or to video rentals, what Expedia did for travel agencies, we want to do the same exact thing for software sales. And so we coin ourselves as we are the Shopify for B2B SaaS companies. And our number one criteria and our number one focus is to make it absolutely easy for customers, for buyers, for tech buyers to buy the software. So whether that be product enablement actually within embedded into the checkout flow, or allowing them to swipe their card, or allowing them to just buy the product with a signature online, like just making it absolutely easy for buyers to buy. That's what our solution is. And in the near future, like that's going to be the critical infrastructure that's powering software sales. Yeah,
amazing. And it's, there's a couple of concepts like value selling is a concept that has been out there forever, but just the whole, I'll call it pain in the ass factor. And it doesn't have to be SaaS. It could be hardware, software, on-prem, off-prem.
Mm-hmm. I
mean, anybody, right? You have these teams of, pre-sales engineers. You talk about sales, these teams of pre-sales engineers that are spent in this, labor-intensive effort getting through that CPQ process, as opposed to, hey, let's go be strategic with customers. Let's go sell.
Yeah.
And it's really not selling. So anyway, awesome. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of time that we save in our customers around creating a quote, sharing with the customer, getting the deal done and signed, they can reinvest that time back into more strategic things like customer-facing QBRs, upsell conversations.
Just selling, revenue generating time. Right?
Exactly.
The whole laundry list.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Things that you can do.
That's
Amazing.
right.
So now you're also talking about Mark Roberge before. So you also were very fortunate enough to get approved into the Stage 2 Capital Accelerator program, right?
That's right.
Maybe tell us about that.
Worked with Mandy, who kind of gated every candidate in the funnel. Got accepted about the beginning of June, I believe. Started the program and the courses in July. And I have to give my tip of the hat to Sean Poe. He does a really great job of.
All right, Sean. Shout out to Sean Poe.
Sean, is dealing with 15, folks in the cohort, 15 companies. And probably 100 LPs who are resources for us, and coordinating every single meeting and introduction. Like Sean does a really good job, and I think it's so far very flawless. So shout out to Sean, Mark. Sean's doing an amazing job.
Awesome, really good. And then speaking of which, I glanced over kind of where you're up in the what you can talk about relative to the kind of fundraising process.
Yeah, so everything's still up in the air, but we do have our process started. We do have a lead investor. We're just trying to syndicate a little bit to fill the round, but I think we're in a good spot to lock it and load everything by the end of the month.
Great, good, congrats. And as an investor, I assume a bit of, even though it's these troubled times, I think it's a bit of an up valuation. So
That's
congrats,
right. Thank you.
Really good. So you've got so much great material from when we were prepping, but one of the things you had said is the best sales book is if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for milk. He or she will ask for milk.
That's right. I was probably in one of our offices back in 3 or 4 companies ago, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. A bunch of deal desk people and I are just shooting the can, and this customer just keeps on asking and asking for more things. And so what I've learned is this book, which is a children's book, if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. It's a great analogy for what salespeople have to go through when they're trying to get a deal done. And so it first starts with, I need you to solve my problem.
Yeah.
I need you to build this thing out. I need you to give it to me at this price. I need you to give me exactly this contract terms. I need you to do this. And so it's basically, just a drag on of a lot of these things that the customers ask for. So it's just a great book that just shows how hard it is to be a salesperson. And I really, like I said, I really appreciate the challenges and the whole career in general, like, selling software. It's challenging, but also very rewarding.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned before, Mark, kind of from a mentor, somebody that you've learned from before. Any others along your career?
Yeah, Mark was great. He's all about sales process. He runs a really tight shop. I learned a lot every single day. It's like getting your Harvard MBA at work. The other guy I really appreciate and I worked with very closely at a company called Lithium Technologies before we got acquired by Vista Equity. Ravi Kumar Swamy, one of the smartest sales leaders I have ever met. He memorizes every single number. So he always redlines my board decks. And looking back into 3 years ago, like he remembers every single booking number. But he taught me how to think such that every decision you make in life has an opportunity cost. So one day I was, it's 8 o'clock at night, and he says, "John, what are you going to do for the weekend?" I said, "Ravi, I've been working all week. It's quarter end. I may just rest at home and wash my car." And then Ravi's like, "How long does it take you to wash your car?" And I said, "It takes me 2 hours if I do a good job." And he says, "Why don't you just get it washed at a gas station or one of those those businesses?" It's like, "Ravi, I'm too cheap. I don't want to spend $60, having my car washed. I'll just go do it myself." And he said, "John, it costs you $200 to wash your car. You get paid $100 an hour. You're going to do it for 2 hours. You're literally losing money. And by the way, you're not even going to spend time with your wife after this long week."
Yeah.
Is that the type of person I hired? Someone who thinks that way? And I was like, "Oh my God, is he calling me stupid?" And he just walks away.
I think he is. Yeah.
There's no closure at all. So the whole week I was like, "Oh my God, is he right? Am I bringing this kind of mindset to the business?" And then on Monday, he calls me up in his office and he's like, "I just want you to know that I promote people who think smarter and do not work harder, right? When you work in sales ops at Lithium, I want you to be thinking about the things that you invest, whether it be software or technology or people, that if you spend $50, you're actually returning back $1 million in cost savings for the business. So if you go think that way, you will get promoted in your careers." And so every single day, ever since that conversation, every investment I make, it's like, how much money am I saving if I go invest just a small output of like cash to go and acquire this technology. And it's been very, very helpful in my career. I had a lot of promotions in my life. Obviously, being a founder of a company is the best promotion you could ever give yourself. But he's been amazing in my career and my development.
Oh, that's awesome. And what about any others, maybe in terms of sales leaders that you've worked with and respect along the way?
Gosh, I think there's a lot of salespeople out there where they run a really good process. They build that relationship, that trust. They're on site almost every day. They're building champions. They're getting badged in right into the organization. They have the badge. And to see them build this relationship even after they leave the organization, and they see people, they invite them to their parties, to their, that's what you call a true partnership, is when you're bringing in your customer from 3 companies ago, and you still have that relationship. That's awesome. And so there's some folks in my career that I really look up to, and I hope to build those types of relationships with my customer.
That's great. And then when you get old like me, actually even have customers where neither of you are working at those companies and you still have good relationships.
That's right.
So that's kind of when you
awesome.
Get to when you start to lose your hair there. I do like the hat fits nice. I like it. But you have a full head of hair.
I spent too much money on gel to ruin my hair today.
You go. Gotcha. So fast forward, look kind of 5 years down the road and think about CPQ. What's kind of the big change?
I think it's the way that buyers interact with the quote. I think right now CPQ is, just outputs a PDF, and if they need changes, you need to configure it and then re-output a PDF. It's not collaborative at all. So CPQ, and I like to call ourselves Product Revenue Optimization Pro.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be that infrastructure that sellers could go and create a quote, send a link out, collaborate, bi-directional sync, so that any party at any given time is actually collaborating and changing the quantities if it's not locked. And then you can start seeing a lot of these analytics into how are your customers interacting with the quotes. Is it showing signs of the deal will get done or they're not interested at all? I think a lot of these tools, and especially salesbricks, and it's the commitment that I'm making with my engineering team, is we're going to have to be a data company. And so as we understand what's optimized in the checkout flow and in the shopping cart abandonment, what closes, what doesn't close, a lot of that data is going to be redigested so that we can provide insights to customers and to our customers in particular. So they can tweak their pricing and packaging. They can optimize their checkout. They're making a lot of these critical decisions that could potentially even unlock millions of dollars at the end of the day. So CPQ has to quit, tripping over its own shoes around configuration and maintenance, and it has to be a data company that provides rich analytics to the vendors.
So in the case of a enterprise sale, you'd have say if I'm selling to you, we'd kind of go through the normal pitch and qualify and position.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get to the point that you're going to have a strong degree of interest, then we'll work on kind of what the quote alternatives are.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying it's much more of a kind of interactive process, but it's kind of maybe more platform or tool based, where the customer is able to kind of input, and it could be dynamic. Then out from there, then kind of spits out pricing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like we're going to train software to go figure out what the right moment is to upsell your customer, right? If your customer's only expanded license and logins in a scenario where it's like less than 6 figures of percentage of growth over a course of a month, then maybe we don't ask them to go pay for this feature that just recently got turned on. If the customer is blowing out a lot of these usage metrics, for example, like in a scenario of a PQL, like are they inviting hundreds of users? Are they going over their subscription entitlements? Then now is the right time to upsell them by $50,000, by $40,000. And software will be doing a better job at figuring out what that right moment is to go upsell your customer. Because in sales, as you know, timing is everything, right? Time also kills all deals. And so software will learn how to go compute and figure out what is the right time to go upsell your customer. When is it the right time for you to actually visit the customer? Because maybe their use is actually really low. So those are a lot of the things that we're excited about.
Yeah, awesome. And just thinking about some basic sales, I was at SaaStr today and I was walking around, and you might see I have a post I do once a week, which is I might be old school, but so I randomly went to Chili Piper, had a nice conversation, didn't ask for my information, went to Scratchpad, and then SalesLoft, who none of these companies I'm affiliated with. Ends up the person came out, he talked to me, hi Randy, blah blah blah, and then he kind of scanned me, and but just think about what a lost moment. They don't know any of those companies that I'm plugged in all these CROs and could potentially help them if I like them or whatever. So just amazing of how a lot of that works.
Yeah, I mean today in software sales technology, it's a human first, and then it's tools that help augment and make their jobs a little bit easier, right? But there's now a tipping point in the crossing the chasm where it's going to be technology first, and then you apply a human organization, a sales team, to then kind of augment that and add additional value, right? So software is going to be doing all the right moment selling scenarios, and then you go have people that just shakes the hand with the customer and learn about some of the challenges they're having, and just further build that relationship. But there is going to be a point in life where software is eating the world, right? Software is going to be doing a good job of selling software.
Yeah, but even there's still a lot of legacy, I call it hardware companies, right? And that's very manual intensive on the whole config price quote aspect of things as well.
Absolutely, it's one space that I'm slowly avoiding because I understand the complexities there and the bombs that the build of materials that have to be designed and built out in order to get a deal done. It's something that maybe we go solve in the near future, but for now it's purely SaaS.
Gotcha. I had another thought, which of course I am forgetting right now. I know. So not to put you on the spot, but if you think about it, you do your config work, then your quote, and then your price. So this space is called CPQ, but why wouldn't it be CQP?
CQP is configure,
quote, price.
Quote price.
Because the space is called CPQ, which is price.
That's
quote. You can't do your quote until you do your price.
Yeah, I think they
you can't do the price until you do the quote.
Yeah, they probably messed up the acronym, and that's probably why it's so painful to actually use the tool. But
It's ironic.
I mean, what's really ironic is one of the biggest CPQ providers out there is not actually using their own tool. They're using Apttus.
Gotcha.
Or they were using Apttus for a very long time. But yeah, I mean, we have to not look at that because if we do, we're going to try to invent something that looks similar to the past.
Yeah.
We have to turn our heads to something of the future. So we try very hard to do the exact opposite of a lot of the other solutions out there.
Awesome. Great. Now, just as a reminder, anybody watching, feel free to make any comments or ask any questions as well. John's just a wealth of knowledge for sure. Now, what about switching gears here maybe to sales tools that you use? I know Gong, who's a sales community sponsor, is one of your favorites, but maybe talk a little bit more about Gong, maybe some other favorites that you have.
Yeah, I mean, Gong is great. I bought them once. I think we're a little bit too small for that at salesbricks, but giving sales reps the ability to go rewind and see the tape reel around their performance in a meeting is tremendous. And being able to watch that over and over and share amongst sellers what a good tape reel looks like, it could really accelerate ramp time. And ramp time is money, right? If your rep takes 2 months more to ramp to understand the product and the sales process and the conversations that need to be had, that's literally millions of dollars of quota that's not being able to be achieved. And so Gong does a really good job of using AI to figure out the right moments and what the challenging moments are for that specific meeting. And they do a really good job of focusing on the sales rep.
Great. What about maybe two others?
Yeah. So one that I really love is a company called Atlas. Atlas allows us to watch how customers are interacting with our product, and that's super important early on in our development, right? We want to know if they're clicking a button that doesn't really actually get clicked. Are they having challenges configuring pricing and packaging? Like, a lot of these things are very important to us, and we want to nip it as soon as possible and redesign the whole process. And so Atlas does a really good job of helping us understand how our customers are onboarding, watching the tape reel, watching them how to configure pricing for their organization. And if they look like they're struggling, I knock on their door and say, hey, how can I help?
It's awesome.
And so I'm very, very, very focused on that user experience.
Wow, very, very, very cool. And what about maybe along the way, any other kind of sales tips, tricks, best practices that you've seen? It could be something strategic, it could be something super tactical.
Yeah, I think no, like hearing a no from a customer, from a prospect, is a great opportunity to drill in and to basically figure out and be creative, like I mentioned earlier. And so sometimes no is just, I just want to throw in the towel. I just don't want to deal with buying the solution right now. And so a lot of early, like younger sales professionals need to peel that onion a little bit more. And sometimes no from a buyer could also mean maybe not now, or maybe give me an offer that is more compelling. So don't just give up when they say, hey, I don't want to go buy from you. So if you put in the time and you know that your solution can help, like, you earn the right to drill in with your customer if they say no, or not quite now. So that's one of my biggest advice for the younger sales professionals out there.
Excellent. And kind of as a startup, how do you plan on dealing with kind of sales methodologies, the kind of training process, kind of getting your team up and going? Because you have a lot of kind of off the shelf trainings out there, and then you're probably going to have the salesbricks way. What do you plan on doing?
I think sales training is super important. It's enablement. I'm basically the first one who's going to go figure it out. And once I figure out that there's a repeatable process to this, I'm going to hire a team that's going to go 2x the reach I can get for outbounding and for sales conversations. And I need to prove to them that I did it for the first hundreds of thousands of dollars of ARR and 30, 40 customers. And I'm going to apply that knowledge that I have to help them, build out the right methodology on how to sell our product. So right now we're kind of in the figuring it out phase that I need to go through first.
That's great. There's lots of great online alternatives out there too. Sales Impact Academy, maybe.
Absolutely.
It's kind of it's like the Peloton app for sales. That might be an interesting one for you.
Yeah, we may or may not be working with them right now.
There you go. Gotcha. All right. And anything else you want to kind of wrap with, or closing comments?
No, it's been amazing working with you, Randy. You've been absolutely stellar. You're a great communicator. So kudos to you as an investor and advisor.
Thank you.
And I love what you're doing in the community. And I think you're a really great resource for, up and coming sales professionals who are slowly understanding that it's not an easy job, right? There needs to be a process. There needs to be mentorship, and there needs to be resources out there to help them in their careers.
Absolutely. Thanks. Appreciate it. And Tucker, thanks so much for your help behind the scenes. It's been awesome having Jon here, co-founder and CEO of salesbricks, and we're sponsored by SaaStr. If you're not, there you go. And if you're not attending, I think you can go to SaaStr.com, but there are just tons of great kind of, I'll call it, short, I forgot how many 1,000 or so different speakers and events. So I would definitely recommend you go check it out. Jason Lumpkin and team have done a fantastic job. Oh, there you go at the buzzer. And next week we're going to have Kevin Connolly, who's a SVP. John Barada, thank you. Appreciate it, John. We're going to have Kevin Connolly, who's a SVP at Dell. And his topic is going to be win medium business with integrated scale and speed with early in career leverage. So that's Randy's, politically correct speak for kind of younger, earlier in career sellers, tips and tricks for them. And then just go through the following week, MJ Leslie, then Diane Shapiro and Eric Brock, who are Dynam AI and Ondas Networks, Annalise Hussman, who's Gong, and then actually we have episode 100. Very excited to have Carl Eschenbach, who's longtime tech exec and become Sequoia partner extraordinaire. So thanks everybody for watching. Feel free to share the great news that we have here and check out SaaStr and check out Sales Community. Thanks so much. Have a great night. Thank you.
Cool.